Okay, so I'm going to start a new tutorial on how to work with photogrammetry in a way that will get you really good looking objects into the sim, stuff that's very irregular, and then be able to take that and be able to convert it to Microsoft Flight Simulator, be able to get everything in and get it modeled. So yesterday I went out to Queensland Air Museum, and if I bring this across to the front, there are a couple of rocks out the front that shunts scenery for Caloundra Airport don't have them modeled in there, and I'm like, I really want these out the front because they're kind of like a very big piece of the scenery. So what I did was I walked around the different objects and took shots from different angles, and for this particular one it was about 177 screenshots or 176 screenshots. So I'm just going to move that across to the side at the moment. I'll bring that back later when it's ready. So what I'm going to do, we go into reality capture, and normally you'll open it up and it will have your different goals and everything, and it kind of steps you through it. And if you're a first time user and you want to learn, you can click on this 3 window pane, 1+1+1, and it'll give you the reality capture help. I've already done it a couple of times, so I know the process. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to inputs, and this is the other object that I've had. Actually, no, I need to go across to number 2. This one is more complicated. Now I could do the folder. I'm just going to do all the objects. So I'm going to hit Control A to select them all and go open, and that's going to bring that into my window ready to go. So then the next stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Start, and it says up the top right here, it says use for free and pay when happy. So you can basically do all your preliminary work and work with the object, get it optimized, get it ready for Flight Sim, or for Blender in this case, because we're going to go from reality capture to Blender, from Blender out to GLTF, and then from GLTF into the simulator. So I will take it to the point of generating the GLTF file, just because most people know what to do with the model library. If they don't, I can potentially do another tutorial on that. So yeah, on this one it's taking a few minutes, and as we can see, if I minimize this, I can kind of see the camera lines and stuff starting to develop. And with this particular one, it is kind of at a weird angle that it's bringing it in at. So I'm just going to wait for this to complete the process. It'll probably be another couple of minutes, but in the meantime, yeah, here's progress. No, that's process. Scene process. I haven't done this before, so show progress. There we go. We go back to progress. That's the new thing. If you minimize it and you're wanting to see the progress, then you have a thing up there on the scene that says progress, and you click on show progress. So this is probably going to take a number of minutes. So I am going to just hang loose for the moment. This is kind of one of the longest parts of the process, and what it's doing is just aligning all the cameras and all of the different things. What you can see in here is these relationship lines. These are all points that the camera took a picture, and if I go to view, I can turn off the cameras to hide them. That's not if I select the cameras. So I turn it off so I can just see this. And this is our XY stuff. Now, I don't know whether when I'm bringing this in I can do this. Should I experiment while doing this? Well, maybe. So what I can do is under Tools, and I'll set Ground Plane. And before I do that, I'm going to go to the view and go from the front. Zoom out a little bit, and I want to bring this so it rotates around here. Actually, what I want to do is I want to double click in the middle of the thing, so that sets the origin point. So I've got the grid, I'll rotate that around. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the side, the left hand side, and that is way off, so I'm going to bring that around to here to make it bottom plane somewhat vertical. What I did discover is that this is actually sloped backwards in real life. That's pretty close. I mean, I could probably go just out here more to the right. Actually, I liked it where it was. So just can look at the front, the back. So the back has the plaque, and what I want to do is I want that to rotate 180 degrees, so I'm just going to do this using the grid lines as reference. So now I can go back to perspective view, and if I right click on the mouse I can spin around and take a look at the thing. So that's not too bad a representation. I have a look from the front again. And it's still a little bit wonky on the side, so I'm going to rotate this, make that more vertical. So that should do that. Let's go back at the progress, see how it's going. It's still going with that. So that's kind of cool. You can actually can kind of line things up as it's bringing in the data. So if you left click, you can move it left, right, up, and down. If you want to rotate around, you right click in perspective, which is not working for me right now. It depends on, I guess, maybe if you're in the view panel. No. Oh, you got to be in perspective mode to be able to rotate. So yeah, right click to spin around. So that looks somewhat ready. Now here's the other thing, and I'm going to do this while we're waiting because we really only want to keep this section in here. So what I'm going to do is go to Tools and we go Set Reconstruction Region. And it's not going to let me do that while it's processing. Okay, lesson learned. So let's just show the progress and we'll just wait for the amount of time that's going to be there. I'm just going to take the headphones off for the moment and then go get a glass of water and come back in 5 minutes. So it's taken a little bit of time, and what we can do is we can go to Task Manager, bring that up, and let's have a look at the processes that are going on. So the CPU utilization is right now quite large. It's not running at full speed, mostly because of the efficiency cores. I have a 16 core CPU. Of that, there's I think about 8 efficiency cores as well. So it's using that at the moment. If we want to go to the resource monitor, close this, and go over to CPU, and we have all the CPU over here, all the way down to CPU 24. And I don't know whether turning off the efficiency cores may help make things go faster, because it seems to only go as fast as the fastest processing core. So CPU 0 through 15 are the main CPUs that get 5 gigahertz, and then these ones run about 3.2 gigahertz from what I can recall. I may be wrong on that, don't quote me on it. Memory, I currently have 32 gigs installed because my RAM does not like it when I have 64 gigs installed in dual channel mode for some reason. So I need to get some balanced RAM. And I'm running an NVMe drive, so disk stuff is not an issue. It's 5 gigabytes per second read and write. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and be patient. This is saying to 423. Oh my goodness, it's been almost 10 minutes. But it'll do its thing. and then we'll get on to the trimming of the photo scan. So basically what I did, I took a 360 degree around the rock, and that I had full frame because that was my master shot, and then I went in close more towards the top because there's a lot more irregularity around the top of the rock, and then went back around. I went around the plaque and shot from underneath looking up along the sides from the top down, and that just to be able to get that ridge in there. And then I took shots around the bottom as well for the base. Basically, as much data as you have, the better your results are going to be. But out of all of the photogrammetry software that I have used, reality capture is by far the best. It is flexible, it's versatile. I actually spoke with a guy that has worked on Avatar 2, Godzilla vs. Kong, and stuff. He's a visual effects artist. Worked on some big major productions in California and is now back in Australia. He hosted a session on Unreal Engine for visual effects, and a part of the workflow that is used in Hollywood is this. And as I'm working in film and TV production, I'm moving more and more towards visual production, especially virtual production like they're doing with The Mandalorian. So a lot of my work is starting to focus on Unreal Engine and being able to get stuff in. So the stuff that I'm doing here also applies to motion picture production, which is kind of cool. Like growing up from Flight Sim version 1 till MSFS, having worked as, I started off developing stuff for Flight Simulator version 4. I started off with Sublogic, Flight Simulator version 2, then moved up to Microsoft, had version 4 of Flight Simulator, version 5, 5.1, Flight Sim 98, Flight Sim 2000 Professional, Flight Sim 2002 Professional, Flight Sim A Century of Flight, FSX, FSX Acceleration. I was on the beta team for FSX. I was invited to the Flight Sim 11 Design Advisory Board, and that was really awesome until Microsoft decided to shut down Aces Studios, which was not cool. And so things went from there. Spoke with one flight sim development group. We were looking at building a new simulator. There was another group that was also looking at building a new simulator. Ultimately, those went nowhere. And that was mostly because Dovetail Games bought the code from Microsoft and to develop it further. So I was brought on board as a contractor for Flight Simulator World and Flight Simulator Flight School. I wrote up a whole bunch of game design documents for various systems, and I'm no longer under an NDA for this stuff, so I can share this stuff. I need to look over the contract to see how much I can actually share. But I did everything from design. I'll come up with design plans for interactive air traffic control, interactive co-pilot, being able to really have markings on the airport like you see in real life, because for example, Flight Sim 10, your taxiway is connected to the runway node, and the line would go to the direct center of the runway, and that's not the way it looks like in real life. So I wrote in stuff that, that's something that was important to have. Trying to think other stuff like ground vegetation, trees blowing in the wind, processes between land class, and just various systems to be able to increase the sim and kind of make it be as good as what Altera was. And I had also been working with guys at V-World Terrain, Vuterra, and he did some pretty awesome stuff for me as well. I'm like, can you take building footprints and extract them and stuff like that? And so that stuff was done and everything, so that was pretty cool. So here we are in the tool window, and we're set definition region. So what we're going to do, we're just going to bring this in on the left and right. I'm going to go to view and go to top down view just because I don't want to clip anything. So the green one I want to bring in as close as possible. I want to bring it inside these little bit of areas that are kind of like edge of frame and a little bit blurry. They weren't really captured very well. And bring this into about here. You zoom in. Yeah, that'll work for me. I might go back to tools and I'll see whether I can set the ground plane a little bit better. Where is it? I just want to rotate this a little bit more. No, the clipping also works. Does that. Okay, so I'm going to ignore that. So I want to go back to workflow. And anyway, let me get back to it real quick. So a lot of the stuff that I wrote for the game design documents for Flight Simulator World, Flight Simulator Flight School are all in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So things that I had spent years developing, USA-wide photo scenery, vegetation maps, all that stuff, it's all basically in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So there's not a whole lot that I have left to do with things that I wanted to see in the simulator. A lot of it's been included. So, okay, so we have our bounding box here. I just realized I need to go back because I forgot to do one thing. Go back to tools. Let's go back and do this again from square one because I exited out before I'd actually finished the process. Anyway, so that's part of my background, being involved with. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna set the ground plane. Just rotate that just a little bit more. Okay, now I'm gonna go back and set the reconstruction. So this is basically a box that just says this is what we're going to clip it to, and this here, bring this down here, zoom in a little bit, and bring these a little bit closer. Can I bring this? How close can I bring this? I want to bring that there. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so now we're at this point. I'll get back to the other stories later. So what I want to do is, what I've discovered is, I want to calculate the model, and I want to, before I do that, I need to go back to my viewport. I need to go side or front. I just want to bring this bottom one down so it gets the bottom part of the model. Okay, now we go back to workflow. And what we're going to do is going to calculate the model normal quality, and that's what it's going to do, is going to clip it to that box. So all the stuff outside of the box is going to disappear. So this is going to take a couple minutes. What I discovered is if I render it at normal mode, then when I scale it down to preview mode, I don't end up with holes. If I just start off with reconstructing it in preview mode, which is low polygon, it can sometimes end up with holes in the mesh, and that's not really what we want. Okay, so getting back to the story, did stuff with Dovetail Games. Microsoft took back the code, and while Dovetail Games had it, they sent it off to and got everything converted to 64-bit. They changed the interface for the menus, and some of that stuff from Dovetail Games is still missing today, which is not necessarily as good as what was originally there. A little disappointed by it, particularly the navigation, like the very first interactive map. There's a lot more detail in the Flight Sim 10 launcher map, which you can actually see like Prepare 3D. It looks similar. So, you know, I'm hoping one day they'll actually improve that, because a lot of the interface was from the UI that came from Dovetail Games. Not many people will tell you that. Flight Simulator World, Flight Simulator Flight School, they had gone to the FSX code, not the Microsoft Flight code. They did a reasonable job, and I had been invited to become a business manager for Flight for Dovetail Games just before Microsoft took back or exercised the option to take back the Flight Simulator franchise. So went from there. Flight Sim 2020 or MSFS came out, and absolutely incredible PBR textures, moving vegetation, even the way to be able to edit airports is incredible. It can be done in a very non-destructive way to the original airport. You can exclude a lot of stuff and then just build upon it, which is really awesome. You can also visually edit stuff as well. So that's pretty cool. The reason why I've been more into scenery development over 30 years or more has been that when Flight Sim 4 came out, it was only the United States, and somebody at the time had uploaded an Australia map to CompuServe, to the Flight Simulator section there. So I started putting it in the Southeast Freeway and a few other things around Brisbane. Didn't really get far with it because it was basically drawing in vector data, and I basically made, a section of the freeway and a house. That was about it. Then Flight Sim 5 came out. Then it was quite complicated to do scenery design within that. Flight Sim 98 came out, still difficult to do. Really started getting interested in photo scenery during Flight Sim 98 because one of the developers came out with photo scenery for Victoria and California, or Southern California, which was really cool. I was a huge fan of Justin Time's elevation data sets. He was one of the pioneers for elevation data in Microsoft Flight, or within the Flight Simulator franchise. Wonderful guy. So it comes up to Flight Sim 2004. I think it was even before that. It might have been Flight Sim 2004. Beta team for Ultimate Traffic was involved with Project AI, and had a blast. Those were really good days. The Project AI guys were incredible, and I miss them a lot. That was an area that we're kind of missing, and there's been a few aircraft add-ons that have come out and everything since then, but FS Traffic seems to be good. There's FSLTL, there's Alpha India Group, there's been a few others over the years, but Project AI, before Ultimate Traffic came out, was the best AI platform back then. Lots of repaints, lots of aircraft, just a very big community, and that's something that I really miss today because a lot of the aircraft are missing. The original developer for Ultimate Traffic has left the community. He's got an amazing life, and he is also sadly missed within the Flight Sim community, and he did so much work. So anyway, kind of things on the back burner right now for me for AI traffic, and a few other things. And photo scenery development, there's not really any point anymore because Microsoft Flight Simulator has it, pretty much everything. So the main thing is doing up local airports in local areas that are familiar to me, and really help others to be able to do the same for their area. So working with visual effects and everything. So okay, it's generated the 3D model, and let's go to the viewport and go to perspective, and just before I load this stuff, see the level of detail in the rock. This is very good, but this is millions upon millions of polygons. I mean, you can even see the raised lettering and stuff. Now, this, at some point, I may take into Blender and see if I can create the bump mapping off of all of this, but for now, what we're going to do, we're going to go back to workflow, And we want to add the textures, so we'll just go up here on the workflow tab, texture, and this is going to take a minute or two to build the textures onto the map. Now the nice thing with this is I'm doing a lot neater job than what I did when I first built this. So I may not have to show you the other thing because it built some of the stuff underground previously. Don't think I really need to do that with this one because I trimmed it so close. What you could do potentially if you want to have something like this, open up Photoshop, hopefully it opens up in the right hand window. Go to pin to start, I don't know why. Oh, that's down there. Sorry, I'm just doing something on the side here. For some reason when I go pin to start for that Premiere shortcut, it's on something. Okay. So let me go into Photoshop here and open a file. Let me go. I'll show you this in a minute. There's a good picture that I can use as a sample. I'll start with this one. Okay. So I'm going to bring this across here. I'm here in Photoshop. I'm going to fill this up to the screen. And say that when I want to be able to clip this. So I'll go, first of all, I'll copy this layer and paste it and then get rid of the background. Because we want to be able to have a transparent background here. And then what I'm going to do is a quick selection tool, and I'm just going to choose.
From desktop 0BHKF4C.
Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this brush a lot bigger. Make it, say, 100 pixels. So I want to add all of this area. And this quick selection tool is letting me just cut and paste around the rock, and I can bring it right up to the concrete. And I can refine it, as much as I want. I could do this for all of the imagery if I wanted to. Get this area in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit delete. Okay, I missed a little bit of grass around there, so I'm just going to highlight that. Get some of this edge here. Hit delete. And I can massage it. Just so that it's that level of fidelity. But I mean, that's a lot of work. It's probably easier just to clip it in Premiere, so or not Premiere, in Blender. So anyway, that's one way that you can do it. You can do that to all your images, save it as a PNG or a TIFF file or a Photoshop file. And so now our texture is here. You can zoom in. And the level of detail and texture is pretty good. Got the top here. And we can even zoom in on this. So we have, the raised edge. But, oh yeah, this does have the block underneath it, so let's ignore that. So let me just go back to view. I'm just going to look from the front in, and that's not quite level. I'll take care of that in Blender. So let me go back to perspective view here. Just rotate this around. So I'm going to zoom in and just more visible up there. Okay, so we're at the point where okay, we're quite happy, so I'll go save and save the project as, Saving is good. Actually, let me do that. Let me just create a folder, test, put underscore just to make it go to the top of the list. Test, max. So that's the maximum size. So now what I want to do is I want to create a version of this for things. So we're in the workflow, and what we're going to do, we're going to use a simplify tool. But before that, what I'm going to show you again is the view mode. And the view mode, oh no, we're in the workflow mode. So if we look at the solid, we see all of the texture here, and we want to simplify that. So we go back to workflow. Oh yeah, it was under the view tool. I'll hit simplify tool, and you'll have a little pop-up down here in the left-hand window. Now this is set to what I had earlier. I did some experiments. Anything below 1,000, particularly for this model, the faceplate is going to start warping. So maximum of 1,000 triangles, and then we just click simplify. And it's going to take a few minutes to be able to cull basically all the faces. Now the thing is, this is using Euclidean. Where is it? It's using coordinate system Euclidean to be able to cull the faces, and that's a lot better than what you can get in Blender, and you'll see in a moment why it is so much better doing it within reality capture than within Blender to be able to reduce the polygon count. Now 1,000's reasonably high. You don't want to have a huge amount, although if you've got a modern video card, you probably have no problem. So this is what it's come up with, and okay, looks a little bit, yeah, a little bit blocky, but we're basically trying to reduce the polygon count as much as possible. So I'll just close that little thing, it's already done. And then because we've rebuilt this model, we want to go and click on texture, and it will reapply the texture to the model based on the new geometry. So just wait for that. Now you may be able to apply smoothing within Blender, I'm not too sure, but I mean, for the most part, this is going to be for Flight Simulator, this particular model, so we want a low polygon count. You're really not going to be able to see a huge amount of the jaggies that you see on the untextured model. Most of the textures will basically cover that up, and you're not really going to get up real close to the thing, because particularly Caloundra Airport, Airside's probably a good 100 meters away from it. You know, unless you're walking on the ground in develop camera mode, you're really not going to see a whole lot. So anyway, we'll just wait for this to continue rendering. I do apologize if you hear me drinking water in the background. It's quite hot here. It's actually a special day for me tomorrow. So anyway, just waiting. I will take the day off tomorrow to take care of stuff. And I will get better audio on this. I'm using my AirPods at the moment for the audio channel, which aren't great, but they're not bad. It's better than my Logitech headset, but nowhere near as good as my Sennheiser wireless mic. Okay, so this is how it looks. You know, well that, you look at the topology, yeah, it's a bit blocky, right? Turn the textures on though, and it's looking pretty sweet. And we've got, there's a thing that you can take a look at the amount of polygons, but yeah, at this point I'd be happy with that, to take that into Flight Simulator. So what we're going to do is we are going to take this into Blender, And to do that, we go to workflow. We want to hit export. Now the thing is, you're going to have to pay to export, but the thing is, it's pretty cheap. And I'm actually going to spend $1 or $2 to re-export this one, just to be able to show you guys. So I've got export, and we have a different, just close that, different things like camera alignment, dense mesh model and texture. So I'm going to use binary GLTF. Go to test, go create my export folder, and this is test max, test 1000, which is 1000 polygons. So it signs in, uses up my stuff, and my export model. Here is the data on that. The transformation settings, texture settings, grid plane, scene transformation. It just basically is all of the data. It doesn't say on this how many polygons and stuff is there, but just click OK. So that's complete. So we can close this down, but I'm just going to see real quick whether I can use view. There was something in this part that actually pulls up a thing. You can see how many polygons there are, but tools, inspect, inspection tool. Anyway, there's something in there you can actually look up stuff. You can look at it through the tutorial. Anyway, so let's close out of that. I'm going to save the project, which I meant to save as the other thing. So let me bring this window back over here, and we have the export. So I'm going to open up Blender, and just go hit A. There is a way to be able to set up a template so that it loads up without the the light and the camera and the box, but just hit A and then delete. Then we go into Blender, import GLTF 2.0. Let's go to the drive that we have, go to the test folder, our export. We'll bring in the model and turn on the texture. So it's not the direction that we want, and what we want to do first is on our little object properties here, we want to rotate this around so that A, that is vertical, and B, that is facing us. But we do not want quaternion, we want to go Euler. So I want to rotate this forward, so that's 90 degrees, so I'm going to say 270. I like working in positive values, and I want to rotate this towards the camera. So 270, so this is facing the camera, and then the only other thing I want to do is we want to go set origin, geometry to origin, which will set it into the middle, and if we look at the X value, okay, it's underground. So what do we want to do? We want to raise this up till it's about level, and the Y rotation will set to there. Let's zoom in a little bit to see if we've got it, and bring it back a degree or two, and then bring this down to be right at the surface. Maybe just, oh, actually I'm basing it on the concrete, aren't I? So I want to make the concrete more level, bring that up there. That should be good. So now I just want to double check that I'm on the X-axis, and all this junk underneath the ground we want to get rid of. So we're going to go to edit mode. We want to turn on the X-ray key because we want to get rid of all the vertices behind in our selection. So we'll go like this, click on that, it's highlight all the vertices, hit delete, delete the vertices. I have a couple of spares there. I want to get rid of that one because it's not really relevant. Look at the Y-axis, get rid of that. Get rid of this one. Click on the X-axis. Y-axis again. The Z-axis, well, we lost a little bit at the front, so let's go back. So go to the X-axis. So I deleted that. Let me have a look and go into preview mode. Go back to object mode and have a look. Yeah, it looks pretty clean. I'll just get rid of these few out the back side here. Delete that one. Delete that one. That should take it back to the edge. Have a look here. Move this around here. Get rid of that one. Yeah, I'll get rid of some of these. Just make this a little bit neater. Just trying to gingerly remove this stuff without removing any of the concrete. Yeah, it should be good enough for the moment. We'll go back to object mode. So that's not bad. So we can zoom in, bring this up. What I found is if I went below 1,000 polygons, this kind of became a little bit more blurry. So this is the best compromise in terms of polygon versus visual stuff, but it's basically reduced the polygon count. So now what I'm going to do is I want to name the collection, and I'm going to call this test 1000 underscore. I'm going to name, this is just going to make your life a lot easier in terms of having everything consistent. So name the collection, you want to copy and drag that into the collection because we're going to export the collection. So name them all the same thing. And then if you have your Microsoft Flight Simulator GLTF exporter, multi-export, go to settings, texture, you want it in the texture subdirectory, so period backslash texture, I'm in all caps, texture, include, don't need to really worry about that, transform Y equals up, geometry, UVs, normals. We can turn off vertex colors, I don't think that's really necessary. Materials, export, images, automatic, animation, we don't have any animation, we can leave them on. There's no presets to add. We go to objects and we'll click reload LEDs. Now we want to go grouped by collections. So we want to generate the XML file, that's with the GUID code. We want to export the collection, which is this entire branch here. And we want to make sure that we set the LED value to at least 100. It's something that's going to be seen within the airport. You can probably make it so that it's a lot viewable from a lot further distance, but this is probably more reasonable for stuff. And then the test file name. Then we go export. And there's something we forgot. Something important. In the export, before that we brought in the texture, we have the diffuse map. So one thing, actually I'm going to do an experiment here because I should be able to do it straight from that. We go to MSFS properties. No, we want to, on that, we want to go here to the material properties. First thing we're going to do is material parameters and go standard. And so the texture's disappeared. So what we want to do as we go down, we want to make this a collision material so that when you bump into it, I mean it's your choice, but when you bump into it, the plane's going to stop. It's going to be like a hard object. If you're building a road via this method, you might want to turn road collision material on. So cars drive over the top of it. For this, I'm not really going to worry about bump mapping, PBR textures and stuff. This is kind of like a throwaway model. Nobody's really going to walk up to it and say, hey, that rock's shining. So the other thing that's to note, when you're doing a 3D scan like this, I just used an iPhone 8. That's where these images came from. I had 177-ish photos for this particular one. You want to do it in an overcast day where there's even lighting all around, because otherwise you can end up shadows over your object, and that's not what you want. So, okay. So we've set our texture. I'm going to rename that texture, actually. How do I open this? Yeah, cancel. Open this again. Go into the folder. Test, export. This, I'm going to hit F2. Paste that as that, and then put JPEG back in as the extension. Because I want the final image texture to all be in line with this, so that it all matches up, so everything's nice and neat. So I'm going to go back. I'm just going to delete what no, that's the input, isn't it? So then what I'm going to do is go model, create the model library, and this is what you'll drop into your simulator scenery. So I'm just going to hit reload LEDs because I changed the texture. The folder I'm going to put into that is the model library. You can put that straight into your scenery project. So you go export, and we'll go into the model library thing, and it's generated the library and the textures. And just to check, and I'll do this. Creates a PNG texture. I'm going to copy and paste that into there, because what I'm about to do is go to Model Converter X and bring that up and drop the GLTF into Model Converter X, and hopefully the textures should all line up. They don't. Probably because it's still PNG. That's why. That's why you're getting the texture stuff. But you can see the model loads up. It's fine. Just close it to check. So then what we're going to do is, I'll just prep it over here because I don't want to show all of my projects that I have working on. Just name this as test. So I have my model library here. I'm just going to rename this test model lib project, and I'm just going to copy that and go into the XML. I'm just going to change everything unique. I basically start off with a sample from the original thing. So in this, I'm going to name everything. Normally I would do on just little letters. For this, I'm just going to highlight it, change that, and this I'm just going to make the model library. So actually what we'll do is my gable parking tire. These I don't need. Package definition I don't need to package that. Those are just scraps. So basically the beginning will look like this, and the package sources. I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to do, the XML, first of all, I'm just going to copy this in here, because if I accidentally nuke anything when I'm working on stuff, then I can always bring the XML, which has a GUID code, or GID code. Not GUID, as some people say. So then I want to highlight these. I'm going to rename them as the model library, and I want to go into the XML here, and I want to change the reference for, here's the version of it. I'm going to go full screen really to do this properly. That, and I'm going to go Control H. I'm in Windows 11, so this brings up the find and replace, and I'm going to go replace all. So this is referencing everything into our folders properly. So package sources are in the scenery folder, The output is to the output directory scenery folder. Microsoft Flight Simulator likes packaging under like scenery, developer, scenery, which is really annoying. So I'm going to make a program to be able to make it so it's more standard for everyone. So find and replace, that's done. And then some model package definitions of package sources. Scenery, I have an objects folder that I just left in from the template. It's just empty. This is your scenery placement thing. So if you wanted to place scenery at the same time that you develop the photo scenery, it's there. I'm going to delete all of these out of here. Those are previous, and I am going to copy these into the folder. And I can close that window and bring this one back big. I can go into Blender, I'll hit save just because of all the changes that I made. Go up to the test folder and just go test 1000. And that will save the Blender file. So I can come back to it when I want. Let's have a little bit of fun here, just for fun. I'll just go add the light from a point. Let's make it 5 meters offset, 5, 5. Actually make it 10 meters high. I haven't scaled this object as well, so that's something you may want to do if you know the dimensions of the object. And I'll go over to here, and the light source is 10 watts is not quite big enough. Let's make it 1000 watts. So go bring the light down closer, check it out. You know, make the light go this way or that way, or you know, see what it looks like. And then, I mean, the other thing too that you can set is go from EV to cycles, which will look a bit more realistic. Anyway, we don't really want the light. That was just a little bit fun to show what you can do. If you want to load the thing in and see the textures, you can see the wireframe with this one. You can see the shading with that one, and then you can see that with that. If for some reason in your journey and you've done something else other than follow the steps and your materials get completely messed up, what you want to do, you can go File, Export as an OBJ, and don't export the materials. Turn that off, export it, so you just basically get the gray model, and then you can re-import that back in and then plug your textures back in. I discovered that the other day working with tires. I was like, why are my tires black when they should be white? Why are they like looking like gemstones that have been through, you know, an abrasion surface? So anyway, that's it. That's Blender. We'll save that. And we have our package sources here. So let's go up to Microsoft Flight Simulator and load it up. And it will take a couple of minutes. Let me bring that up. As you can see, I'm working on a bunch of stuff. Airports, Blender projects. What else am I working on? My movie background. You know, screenwriting, movie prompts for screenwriting.
Playing
stuff.
from desktop.
So I have my Mars Ascending short film, a bunch of other stuff. That's just the other part of my life outside of Flight Simulator. So let me bring this up from screen. I have got this as well on Fast Start for. So if you want to launch Microsoft Flight Simulator in Steam faster, what you want to do, you go into Steam, right click, go down to Properties, and under this, actually that's not Fast Start, so you want to, under your launch options, you want to go Fast Launch. Close that. What I'm going to do is click Stop, and I'm going to launch it again, because this will load up Microsoft Flight Simulator faster and get rid of some of the other things that are going on. So it should be launching. It is launching. Bring that up. Here's on the window. am hopefully still recording. So this is, my sim is starting to take a bit of time. So yeah, it basically skips over those video animations and gets you into checking for updates quicker and into Flight Simulator a lot faster. Originally I had turned on that fast launch, and there used to be videos and stuff at the beginning that it would play, and when there were some updates, I wanted to actually see the stuff. So I've been launching it just in slow mode for the longest time up until the last couple of days, because I don't tend to play those preliminary videos anymore with stuff. So this checking for updates, I am in wonderful Australia, where the government said you really don't need more than 20 megabytes per second down or up, and they basically rolled out the NBN, which is fiber across the country, but it was supposed to be fiber to the home. And then like, no, that's too expensive, we're just going to do fiber to the node. So, and then run copper to the house. So, yeah, internet speeds here, not cool. For example, let's get this. I'll move that over to that window so you guys aren't. So speed test, .NET. These are the wonderful internet speeds that I have here in Australia right now, which is why Flight Simulator takes so long to launch. Spending what, 50 megabytes per second down? That's kind of rough, and that's coming in through fiber, and it's just copper that slows it down to ridiculous speeds, and that's the upload speed. So yeah, I am definitely missing Dallas right now, where I had fiber straight into my apartment on my brand new constructed apartment, and I had 500 megs per second down and up for $50 a month. So I was very spoiled over there, and it's still loading. So I'll twiddle my thumbs. So one thing that I should have done at the beginning of this was bring in the model and launch it. You know what? I'm going to exit out of this because there's one step that I forgot to do earlier, and I'm going to create a new window. Go to local disk C to Microsoft SDK. Go to Tools, Binary. We have the FS Package tool, and I'm going to create a new window for me. I'm going to go back. So we have package sources, test model library, packet, yeah. So rather than launch Flight Simulator to generate the XML, I'm going to click and drag this project over. It will build the scenery project without actually having to launch the sim. The reason I'm doing this right now, this way, is there, and I have borked something in the code, so let me go have a look at what I've done. I think I know what it is too, because it probably said project. Yep, we don't want the project there. Just save that, so I'll do that and run that again through FS Package Builder. That is why I want to generate a program, so that it will make everything standard for whenever I generate scenery. So that should, there. Let's convert to the bitmap. It says invalid package name, test model lib. Package name should be one word. Blah, 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 blah. Cannot end group. Did that not do it? I bet it's generated it. It's just not in a standard format. That's fine, I can get away with that for now. So I'm going to go to my desktop and find my shortcut to the community folder and drop that into my community folder. Now I can launch the sim. And this time with fast launch. I would put on some music right now. Actually, I can put on some music right now. maybe. Yeah, it might interfere with stuff. I won't do that for now. Some friends of mine have got some music that I want to use for my short film, Mars Ascending. So yeah, it's checking for updates. Gonna go through a few minutes with this. Just while I'm at it, I'm gonna. Yeah. So just waiting for the update. Check. Sorry if you're twiddling your thumbs along with me. Oh, here's one thing. I've had that folder, right? And we generated it, and it was in the community folder. Test model wipe. So this, from inside, let me open up that model converter X again, and if I drop the BGL in now, still don't get the textures. What if I bring the textures out here then? I don't know, I know that it works, so please forgive me, I'm messing with it. PNG.dds. PNG.dds. Not sure why, it's not displaying the texture. I've had it work before on other things. It's not on this one for some reason. So, anyway. Still trying to kill time while it loads up, and my sim, it's still moving down there, so it's taking a little bit of time. And this is loading from an SSD with 3 gigabytes per second, so, yeah, it's taking its time. Don't know why. Probably have too much stuff in my community folder. What do I have in my community folder? I've got desktop, community. So I've got the Electra that I purchased. I was seeing Southport, which is really, really awesome. They've done an incredible job with that airport. That's right where it used to be. My Rosamond Sky Park scenery is basically a rework of the airport to be more realistic, so it's only a 70 kilobyte file. Archfield that I'm working on currently, Tangalooma, which I've been working on, and I really need just some quick maintenance here. Tangalooma. Scenery. Let's go to the airport. Basically, Tangalooma I was doing a fix because originally when they came out, there were trees that were right up against the runway because there's a grass strip on a sand island and stuff. So, okay, that's the name. JSON lookout is. I want to change this from worm to Tangalooma. I used to work at Tangalooma years ago, so okay, so that should fix that from now on. And okay, content history. Just save all that. Boom, boom. Scenery, Tangalooma, YTGA. Sorry, that's there. I have FS LTL still installed. It's okay for the time being, but I'm going to go to FS Traffic. I have freeware, which is Ambly that I've downloaded. It's not too bad. DC Designs F18, and I've come up with my own naming system so that I can find stuff. Global AI Ship Traffic, which the developer is an awesome guy doing amazing stuff and absolutely loving his work. So these are all of his projects while it's shipping around the world. I have a Kodiak, basically in a repaint of Missionary Bush Pilot's Kodiak. He's a missionary pilot in a country just north of Australia. Mount Stapleton Radar, that's something near me. Springwood target. That's just basically target is a reporting inbound point for Archfield Airport. Archfield Airport for where I live, where I learned to fly out of. Oki Army Air Base that I learned to fly out of as well. My repaint that's still in process. It's my version 1 of the repaint for Arc Skull Cessna 150M Aerobet. My scenery for Oki putting in the sock locations. Seaborn Legend. This one's kind of fun, actually. I like this one. Bring this up here. And suddenly the music starts playing in my head. So the Seaborn Legend from Cruise, Speed 2 Cruise Control. I need to finish that up. Have a couple cool things planned. Now that I remember how this texture system works, I need to put the bump mapping, occlusion files and stuff like that back into this. That's the Seaborn Legend. But the thing is, they've actually lengthened the ship in real life. They've put in a huge chunk in the middle, so I want to see whether I can actually do something extended. So it's got a modern day version. Or maybe I'll talk to the creator of Global AI Ship Traffic, and then can make a contribution there. Scenery Woodford, this was my first attempt at photogrammetry, and it was quite the challenge. One of the houses that is close to me, so we're going to take a few minutes to load up, but yeah. Okay, so I've launched Flight Simulator, we've gotten this up. This is finally loaded into Model Converter X. The reason was I had it in Inspect Texture Mapping render mode when it should have been in texture render mode. So yeah, this is the house that I scanned. Not a huge fan. There was this model information. Yeah, it's got like a million triangles and stuff. So I'm gonna try and do this again with something else shortly. That's what I used, but yeah, that was the reason why. Actually, I should reload the Seaborn Legend while I've got it here. Yeah, this is Seaborn Legend. Don't have the transparency in yet for the railings, so I'll get that in and get the textures properly mapped, and then I'm going to do some other cool stuff with it. Okay, so now we're going to go to the world map, and I'm going to go to Caloundra Airport. Now this is, I just bought Shunt's scenery for Caloundra. I'm just going to go to this section, and let me go down this section. Wait. It says departure. We'll just use this as an example. Now the thing is, with the model that we have created, there's no scaling on it, and there is the ability within that tool set in Reality Capture to be able to say, okay, this is the size of the object. What I would do would be, I'll give an example while this is loading up. I'll load up Blender. I'll load up the model that we just created. And so if we wanted to size it, say we knew the size of, we want to create a mesh cube, say that we know that it's 2 meters long. So we created that, we go down here, say it's 5 meters long. Okay, so this is obviously super big, and then we can just go to this, and we can just go down here to scale, and oops. There should be a way to be able to lump these together. Is there one? Nope. This one is easy. Yeah, well, you know, it's like we want to scale it down. Let's say we wanted to scale it up so it's as wide as that. And go 1.1. And then we can do our scaling that way and match it up to the box or whatever, but I'll just go back and revert that. Close that. That's the way to be able to properly scale your models based on the line, so you don't have to do it in a sim like we're about to do here. So go ready to fly. I'm going to go open recent project, Caloundra. I've already got stuff loaded in. So my window here. Wait for the sim to sort of click on my scene, load in editor. Get rid of the material editor. I have this all set up in one window. I've got two monitors set up. So sliding in my previous version of the models from the model library that I had previous placed in the simulator. So again. And if I double click it, it will take me over to where they are. I've basically gone into Google Earth and located them. I'll show you what I did. The easiest way to geolocate stuff. Once Google Earth is loaded, I'll show you what I do. Google Earth is an awesome tool, actually. Bring this over here. Okay, so I have these untitled place marks. Basically, because the imagery is so much clearer in Google Earth, I've just gone in, zoomed in on the location, created a mark. In properties, I can move this around and basically drop this where the object is. Property window. If you want to place a new one, so we wanted to locate this thing here, click up here, change the icon, and you can move this onto the spot. And then what you do is you can take this here, and when you come into the sim, say you want to place the object. Now we're going to go down here and we're going to look for our test model library, and there's our test 100. We'll click on add. That has loaded that into the sim. I'm just going to pull this over and go translate. And a couple of things we want to do. First of all, now properties, we want to turn off snap to ground. We can turn on snap to normal if we want to, but why am I not getting a visual representation of the model? Delete. We just go up and tilt down and then go test model library, test, add. There we go, it's added it into the scenery. Now this is way out of scale. I haven't scaled it previously, so what we're going to do is just going to scale that down on the scale menu and go to the norm. We're going to scale that down to size, then we can go rotate, change the heading of it, for example, and place it in the scenery. So I've already done that for these. But say we wanted to locate it, so, okay, what was the thing that we had before? We had this here, it was minus 26.79808. So we want to translate this, we want to do that. 798. Is that what that field was? 7988083. And this is one thing that's important. You type in the figure, then you hit enter, and then that will tag it. Now we've got 153.109. The last three digits are going to be different. 467. 4667. And then that's located within the sim. Okay, obviously, shunt scenery does not have it in the correct location, because that should be up about here. Where this is. So yeah, I might try to talk to those guys and see whether I can help them actually make it more accurate for the scenery. So we've placed the scenery, we have it up here, test, it's in our project, and then we want to hit save scenery, bada bing, go across here and click on build all. I've already built the previous one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that out of my scenery and just save it again because I don't want to change anything about it. And then you can just drop that into your community folder, and you have got 3D models of very irregular shaped objects that look pretty decent in sim, that are low polygon, and you can almost go in and read. Yeah, you can almost read what it says. I mean, you probably could if you taxied all the way up to it. So that's it in a nutshell. That's how to get your photogrammetry objects into Flight Simulator. Now this one, it's not perfect because this could be shaded smoother or whatever, but it's the choice between polygon count and frame rate. Now I need to talk to Shunts about this. There's no rock there in real life. This isn't it there. There's a street lamp there. There's no street lamps on this side of the street. I might have to go back to looking at. But from the street here, I mean, this is what you're going to see from a distance. You know, you're going closer, you see the detail list there, and yeah. So that's about it for the tutorial. Thanks for hanging in. I know it's been a long one, but it has been a fun one. So yeah, that's kind of it for the process, using reality capture and iPhone and Blender and then Microsoft Flight Simulator's SDK to bring in irregular imagery and objects into the simulator. So I'll catch you on the next round.